So now we are ready to go. And I was trying to think the other day, Erin, how I even met you. And I can't remember.
I
If
mean,
it was
obviously
Liza,
through
maybe?
triathlon at some point. It could be Liza. She's like the connection for me for a lot of the endurance community.
I was actually trying to think of that. I couldn't remember. But I feel like it's been quite a while that we've been connected, which has been great. So everybody, I'm going to let Erin introduce herself. If you don't know Erin, she is a fabulous, fabulous athlete and a phenomenal resource in our community. So if you have not had the pleasure of working with her, I would highly recommend it. So, all right, Miss
Well,
Erin, take it away.
thank you. Thank you so much for that. And yeah, I have been around the Boise endurance community for many years. I have lived here. I was just telling a client, I think it's been 17 years that I've lived here. And all of those years, I've been involved in endurance sport in one way or another, whether it's trail running or mountain biking or triathlon, which ended up being part of my profession as well. I raced as a professional triathlete for 7 years. I just retired at the end of the 2019 season. Lucky me, because the pandemic hit and I had no choice but to not race in 2020. So it ended up working out. But I also am a registered dietitian. I'm a certified specialist in sports dietetics, and I have my degree in sports science as well. And so all of my education and formal training turned into kind of what I call like my PhD in triathlon. So I, really put it all to work myself and kind of learned the ins and outs of endurance fueling, training, the mental side of things, and just like some of the logistical challenges that are really unique to endurance athletes, especially triathletes. So that's what I bring to you tonight is my expertise in nutrition and health and body function in general, but then also, that experiential expertise that not a lot of people have. So would you like me, Michelle, just to dive into the questions, get started?
Sure, we can do that. I was going to say that is awesome. That is a great introduction. And yeah, let's go ahead. We got some good questions, so let's just get started. And you guys, please feel free to just ask anything, anytime. You don't have to wait. So just chime right in when you're ready.
Yeah, so I'm just going to go through these questions that Michelle sent me, and my hope is that they'll dovetail into additional topics, and that's usually how these things go. So the first one, I love this because what are quick, easy meals that we can prep, make in advance for the week? And yes, some of it is just you need to create the time, you need to get to the grocery store, or you need to get the grocery delivery at least, sorted out. But one thing I want to emphasize is that healthy eating and eating for performance does not have to be complicated. I get a lot of clients that think they have to make every little thing from scratch. And I'm like, well, why don't you just grab a, jarred like simmer sauce with some chicken or beans or something and put that over rice with like a veggie package out of the freezer or canned veggie. I know that a lot of people would scoff at that because, oh my gosh, processed foods and frozen foods and canned foods. But the reality is, you get nutrition from a wide variety of foods. And when you have the time to prep a bunch of stuff from scratch, knock yourself out, do it. And especially do the things that you know are easy and that are in your normal rotation. But if you're feeling overburdened and time crunched, like a lot of us are, it is far more important for you to just get the nutrition in a simplistic way than to be stressed out, not good for training, not good for recovery, spending extra money on eating out or convenience foods, also not helpful. And then possibly making poor nutritional choices. I mean, I love a big bowl of cereal, but if that is your dinner on repeat because you can't think of anything else to eat, then we're in trouble. So, quick, easy meal. So I mentioned like the simmer sauce with beans or some kind of protein. That is one of my go-tos. So I love Mike's Organic Curry Love. It's made here in Boise. It's like a paste. It comes in an envelope. You can mix it with coconut milk. Again, put beans or whatever protein of choice. You could put tofu in there. I sometimes will just dump the vegetables that I have into it, make it all one big pot, and then cook some rice. You've got dinner and you've got at least a couple meals left over. So that's an easy one. I use my Instant Pot a lot. So I might make chili or soup in there. And I mean, as far as recipes go, like I have some recipes, but honestly, I would just get online and look at some recipes. And if you're desperate for like what are some websites, I can steer you in that direction. Um, Other quick meals. Honestly, salmon with a veggie and a starch are that's one of my go-tos every week. So I just get a fillet of salmon, I throw it in the oven with some seasoning on it at 400 degrees. And while that's cooking, I zap some vegetables in the microwave or make like a salad kit or something. And then we have either bread on the side or rice or pasta or potatoes or some kind of starch to go with it. So those are some of my easy ones. I think that pasta is also a highly underrated food. Like, again, a lot of people are, carb phobic these days and nervous about it. But with pasta, you actually get a good dose of protein. It's really good carbs. It's pretty complex carbohydrate. And if you put it along with another protein source like fish or chicken or tofu or something like that, and then put a veggie with it, you might be sensing the theme here. Protein, starch, veggie is a pretty balanced meal for most meals. Um, I've done simple things like um, grilled cheese sandwich with tomato soup. I know that seems overly simplistic for a lot of you, but you're actually getting a vegetable serving in that tomato soup, surprise, and you're getting carbs and fat and protein with it. And it's so easy. Like you can throw that together. In fact, I made that last week because my husband and I had crazy days, didn't get done with work till 7. And I was like, literally can't use any more brain power to come up with dinner. So here it is. Eggs are fantastic. So scramble some eggs with some veggies, with a piece of toast or two, you're set. That's another easy one. One last one that comes to mind is something that I learned from a friend that I never would have put together, but I will bake a sweet potato either in the oven or zap it in the microwave if I'm really in a hurry. I just rub it with like butter or oil or something to kind of make that skin like a little softer, wrap it in a paper towel, microwave it, or you can wrap it in foil and bake it. And then I slice that puppy open and put a big heap of cottage cheese on it. I know it sounds funny, but that kind of sweet, savory thing goes together, and you're getting a great source of nutrients, veggie, starch, fiber from the sweet potato, and you're getting some really good protein and maybe some fat with that cottage cheese. So those are some of my easy ones. Canned soups work great. Frozen entrees and things can work great too. You could take a big package of frozen chicken breasts with like a, can of enchilada sauce, throw that in the crock pot all day. And then when you come home, you just shred it together, wrap it in some tortillas if you want. You've got tacos, you've got enchiladas, you've got filling for all kinds of things. So sometimes it's just thinking ahead and getting a little bit organized around food, taking stock of what you've got in your freezer, pantry, and fridge, and then put it together.
Yeah, I like that, Erin. We do a lot. And you guys, if you guys have like great ideas, like please put them out there because I know everybody wants to know quick, easy dinners, right? We do a lot of making extra, like bigger amounts of meats, and then you just have it available so that you can just, eat it in different things in different ways. Just like you said, make tacos or make enchiladas or make burritos or put it with eggs or whatever. And it can come together really fast that way. Big things of vegetables too, same thing. That's super easy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it does not have to be complicated, and it doesn't have to look like a meal to anybody but you. So if you start putting together those components, like if we have leftover rice that we ate the other stuff that went with it, so now I've just got this thing of rice in my fridge, I might heat that up, but then I'll maybe saute like some veggies and soft cook an egg and put that over it, and then sprinkle some condiments on it, like a little soy sauce, a little sriracha, whatever, make it kind of Asian fusion, something like that. I've got lunch. So again, you can get really creative with this stuff, but it's kind of looking at the food components, the carbohydrate, the protein, the fat, the veggie, the fiber, and putting things together.
Exactly.
So
super great.
Yeah.
Anybody got any ones they want to set out there just while we're talking about that? Okay.
I was just to tell you, if, sweet potato, if you grill, it's really good too with some cinnamon and butter. Really good.
Oh man.
Delicious.
I love cinnamon and butter and a little salt on my sweet potatoes. So I would try that grilled.
Yeah, that is amazing.
That sounds awesome, Shane.
Yeah.
So you know what my go-to has been lately has been steelhead. Steelhead
Oh
trout.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. I actually have decided I love it more than salmon. It is
Really?
so freaky good. Yeah, because it's oilier.
So good.
Just delish. Just delish. All right. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah. So protein and aging. This one, you know, I don't know that I have a whole lot to offer because I mean, let me say that protein is important as we age in the sense that our bodies have a harder time holding on to lean body mass, particularly muscle mass. That's just a function of aging. Um, Making sure you're getting adequate protein will help combat that. But what's more important than the protein content of your diet is the stimulation of that muscle. So it's the strength training, it's the exercise, it's the daily movement, it's the challenging your balance and proprioception and those kinds of things. In fact, I just sat in on a webinar from Stuart Phillips, I think is his name. He's a researcher. I want to say he's in Calgary or something. He's at a university in Canada. And he's the protein guy right now. Like he's doing tons of research on it. He presented some interesting concepts that, I've long kind of operated off of this dosage system with protein. You need, 20 to 30 grams, 3 or 4 times a day. That's to optimize your muscle protein synthesis. That's the way your body kind of puts that protein to work in the muscle. And that's still a valid suggestion. Like it makes sense because that has you eating regular meals, usually works with most people's like daily schedules and social schedules. But from a physiological standpoint, we're actually seeing that like the total protein amount in the day is what's actually most important. So don't freak out if one meal is lower than another meal. That's not going to make as big of a difference as if you get your full protein needs in the day. And that stimulation of the muscle is far more important than the actual amount of protein you're eating. In fact, we see that if people have like the muscle stimulation or this and inadequate protein or adequate protein and less muscle stimulation, the muscle stimulation group wins out. So interesting to remember that. I do think that adequate protein becomes more challenging as we age. There's a lot of reasons for that, whether it's the cost, the availability and accessibility of cooking it, because a lot of protein foods need to be cooked. It could be the chewing aspect of things like meat becomes more challenging as we, get older, our dentition changes. So there's a lot of things that go into getting adequate protein. So I would encourage people to, kind of look at like, what are the protein sources in my diet? How often am I eating them? Am I getting a strong protein source? Strong, I would say like around that, 20-gram mark. Am I getting something like that most of the time at my meals? And if not, how can I kind of bump that up? So
how do you put like protein drinks into this equation? Good, bad, indifferent?
I think they're a very useful tool, particularly for athletes, particularly if, again, the cooking of the protein is a challenge or the chewing of the protein is a challenge, kind of that accessibility. So protein drinks can be very helpful and they can be used strategically. So I would think like around that workout would be a good time to have the protein beverage, or maybe like breakfast tends to be kind of a low protein meal for most people. And so sometimes adding that in strategically can be helpful.
Do you have recs on particular drinks that you like?
I just look for a whey protein that is, it could be concentrated, it could be isolate. I mean, we're getting into the weeds there because for the average person, it really doesn't matter. But a whey protein is a good gold standard. If you're vegan or vegetarian or for some, milk allergy, can't have whey or don't want to drink whey. You could do a pea protein, or there's other protein beverages that are made from quinoa or corn protein or rice protein. I mean, there's lots of different products, soy. on the market today. There's lots of different products. We could go down the rabbit hole of like, well, leucine content, what wins out? Honestly, for the vast majority of us, that's not going to make a huge difference. It's more important for you to get the food first, and then again, use those protein powders as kind of to augment the overall solid food intake of the diet. Because remember, you're getting other nutrients from those protein sources. If you're eating beans and tofu and eggs and fish and all these other protein foods, you're getting additional nutrition from those, not just the protein. So, I mean, I don't really have a favorite brand. I'm not affiliated with any brand. So I kind of just tell people, hey, look at the label and go with what tastes good and what you can afford.
So along those lines, Erin, I've kind of come to because I am if given the option, I would eat only carbohydrates. I love me my carbohydrates.
Right.
And I've worked really hard on trying to increase my protein counts because I was very carb dominant and to the detriment of protein. So what I've kind of come to doing, and I was curious what you think about this, is at my meals, I basically try to get my protein in first. So eat my protein first, and then whatever I feel like I want to eat after that is fine. And that way I kind of guarantee that I don't end up like getting so full on the carbohydrates side.
Yeah.
So it's worked for me. It's worked really well. But I was just curious if anybody else had any sort of like little tricks like that sort of keep them on track. Because I think you're right. I think especially as we age, and for older females especially, it's really hard to get that protein in. Oh, it's a lot.
It is. Yeah. I think that's a great strategy. And if it works for you, I mean, that's the most important thing. If it works for you, like that's the number one thing I ask people, how's that working for you? If that works for you to eat the steelhead before you dive into the potatoes or whatever it is, totally fine. And I like that people are mindful about prioritizing certain nutrients, especially if like, hey, I'm not super great at getting these types of foods in. I tend to gravitate more toward these foods, and you have an interest in balancing out your diet or improving your intake of certain foods and nutrients, then I think it can be helpful to kind of prioritize that. I will add that, there's a lot of talk right now about the order in which you eat foods and what it does to your blood sugar and all this stuff. Unless you have diabetes or unless you have a medical condition that's really makes you especially sensitive to blood sugar swings, I don't think that's something the general population really needs to worry about, because in general, we're eating a mixed nutrient meal anyway. And so your body is designed to have blood sugar swings. Our bodies can handle it so long as you don't have a medical condition that's impairing that function. Okay, so then the next question was this awesome recipe of a bean burger. And, without entering all of these ingredients into a recipe calculator that's outside the scope of this talk, but what I would do, I would say, go find a recipe calculator. It could be online, or you could just do it in a spreadsheet and look up every individual ingredient, do it yourself. And then I would compare it to, say, like a ground beef, because that's the question. Is this an adequate substitute for meat? And I'm thinking burger, so I'm kind of going toward like a ground beef. And I just pulled up like a 93% lean, 7% fat ground beef, and you're looking at 172 calories. Now this is raw too for a 4-ounce serving. So remember, that's going to shrink down once it's cooked. So if you're looking at a 4-ounce serving cooked, it's going to be a slightly different nutrient profile. 172 calories, almost 8 grams of fat. You're getting almost 24 grams of protein, no carbs out of that. So when I look at the ingredients here, I'm looking at like, well, there's some good protein sources. There's a variety of beans. We've got some breadcrumbs. We've got nutritional yeast will add a little bit. Some of the potato flour, wheat gluten, all of the carbs will add to that. We'll definitely have more carbs than meat. I would kind of wonder about the iron content and the overall protein content, but you're getting a lot of variety in this burger recipe. And I'd be interested to, experience how it tastes too, because there's a lot of different flavors going on there. So that's how I would break down the nutritional analysis of that if you're interested in finding out if it's a good substitute for meat, and just look at the iron, protein, fat content that you're trying to replace there.
Hey Shane, I'm going to call you out. Do you know how that tastes? Because that's your dad's recipe.
Yeah, I did try it, but I can't remember. I just remember watching. I think I remember watching him make it, and I was just like you were saying, Aaron. There's just too many different flavors going on there. It's like an episode of Chopped or something. I'm not really sure. I think
Yeah,
I think it's going to be pretty dense. Like eating a
I
brick.
think it would too. The other thing I'm thinking about is, sometimes people think that they need to sort of perfect a food to replace all of the little things that we're missing from other foods. And what research actually tells us is that the eating pattern over the course of a week or many weeks is more important than like each individual day, and much less each individual meal. So I think when people get, too far into like, oh, I got to make this perfect and make sure I'm not missing anything, I would be more concerned about what they're missing because they're trying to perfect their diet. And so that just might
Yeah.
be, a little nugget to think about when if you fall into this category of like, oh, I want to get like the perfect replacement for XYZ, make sure you enjoy your food too, and make sure you're just getting a variety.
Yeah, I heard Michelle mention the nutritional yeast. I'm like, I bet that's my dad's recipe because he puts that on everything.
Oh, I love it though. I put it on my
I
salad.
love it.
It's
It
delicious.
I
smells
add it to
it
eggs.
smells funny. It's
Oh no, it's so tasty. I love it too. Yeah.
I add it to veggies, I add it to eggs, but it's certainly not, I mean, it's a very common additive for people making recipes who are vegan because they're not getting the B12 from other sources. And so it's very common to use a lot of it if you follow a vegan diet. But some people just love the taste of it. And hey, it's nutritious. So yeah.
So it's adding B12.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I mean, among other things, there's some other nutrients in there, but B12 is the kind of the number one that we hear about for a vegan diet.
Yep. Good.
Okay. So next one, juice cleanse or detox programs. I have a friend that's done many detox programs over the years, and I think he's nuts. One time he did a liver detox with lemon juice and olive oil. Now he's doing a multi-day juice detox. For several $100s. Yep, these industries love your money. But I wonder if it really does anything. So, I mean, presuming that nobody has had a kidney removed, we all have 2 kidneys and a liver. Even if you have 1 kidney and a liver, you have filter organs in your body that are made to flush out toxins and to filter out toxins. So there's really no hard evidence behind these detox cleanses and these detox diets and protocols. Many times it is for a doctor or a dietitian or a naturopath or whoever that's selling something, and they want your money. Many people will get diarrhea and a lot of GI distress on these protocols. And well, you might think in a kind of a twisted way that oh yeah, I'm getting cleansed because you've got all this diarrhea happening. It's both not healthy for your colon and your body and your digestive tract because you're also losing a lot of microbes with that diarrhea. But I would think it would be horrible for training and just life in general when you're just really struggling with stomach issues. So when I look at something like a lemon juice, or like I know people have done vinegar things and like all that acid, it's not good for your teeth. Again, it's not great for your gut. It can burn your esophagus. I mean, there are cases for people burning their mouth and their their digestive tract with having that acid going down all the time. So my take on this is skip the detox. Your organs are functioning well to take care of it. Drink enough fluid, eat nutritious food, and your body will take care of the rest.
So Erin, if people do something like that, do they have to go back then and do like a probiotic kind of
Oh,
thing to sort of reset
God.
or?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, I've had people come to me that have done like kind of some wonky diets and different things, and their gut is all messed up now. And the sad part about that is a lot of people will then continue to eliminate foods out of this notion that these foods are causing the GI upset in their digestive tract. And so the common culprits we hear are wheat, dairy, anything quote processed, so like sugar, and people will just like draw this broad brush of foods they need to eliminate because their stomach is so messed up. And really, a lot of that elimination is actually making the problem worse, because what you need to do is start healing the gut and rebuilding that microbiome that has been flushed out. And that sometimes is an unpleasant process because those microbes create gas, and they can create all kinds of sensations and different things going on as they're digesting some of those non-digestible polysaccharides, oligosaccharides, the carbohydrates that they live off of. So a probiotic would be helpful, eating a prebiotic diet. So the prebiotic is the fiber, those non-digestible carbohydrates that the probiotics eat. So probiotic is the bacteria or the microbe. Prebiotic is the food source. So, and you can, Google this and find prebiotic food lists and look at what they have on there. And there's like garlic and onions and, all these oats, fibrous foods that you can include. I would say if you're running into some digestive issues like that, hopefully not from a detox, but if anybody did that, no judgment. Makes sense. There's a lot of marketing around it and people, like go down that path. If you need to rebuild your gut, then that's where I would start.
Good. Excellent. Good info.
Okay. What is the right diet? Oh my God, it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating, isn't it? Like everything is like, if you eliminated everything that the pundits are telling you to eliminate, you wouldn't even be able to drink water, because there's some idiots out there like, freaking out about water too. There's primal, paleo, Mediterranean, vegan, there's keto. There's so many choices. What's considered ultra processed? And there's so many ingredients. Okay. So what is the right diet? The right diet is one that nourishes you adequately, meaning tastes good, fills your body with enough energy to engage in your activities, and doesn't create any deficiencies. So that's what we see when people start eliminating things. I'm looking at you, keto, because we see constipation and we see all kinds of different issues with the keto diet. So I do not recommend that one at all. Paleo is only marginally better, but it's really kind of a farce, because we actually have plenty of evidence that people that were living in the Paleolithic era actually ate plenty of grains and foraged for a lot of their foods over eating large amounts of meat. So that one's out. Mediterranean is a fine eating pattern. It does not eliminate a single food group. Focuses very heavily on vegetables, legumes, moderate, dairy, meat options, maybe a couple times a week for those foods. Focuses a lot more on fish, nuts, grains, that kind of thing. So Mediterranean style eating is a great option. Vegan is fine too. My only qualm with vegan, I guess, is because it can be really hard to meet your full nutrient spectrum on a vegan diet unless you're very good about making things from scratch. And again, like back to that nutritional yeast and like the flaxseed and like all of these other little additives, that's what I see a lot on the most successful vegan eating patterns. The other thing I would say about athletes and vegan, endurance athletes and vegan, is that a vegan diet or vegetarian diet tends to be much higher fiber than the average diet. And so you might have to eat things like peeled potatoes or white rice, or, things that have less fiber to them in order to get the amount of energy and carbohydrates available without overloading yourself with too much fiber, because that can be a problem too. So yeah, right diet is the one that nourishes you, tastes good, you can afford, and you can stick to. Those are basically the requirements. And I've been at this for 17 years, and I can tell you, I've worked with refugees, I've worked with, rural Idahoans, I've worked with people that live in downtown Manhattan, I've lived with people in other countries. There's no right way to do it, and there's no best way to do it. It's what works for you. So that's where I would start. Ultra processed. Was there a question?
No, I would say that's a great answer.
Sorry. Ultra processed. I believe I'm trying to remember now if there's a definition. It's hard for me to keep up with this because it seems like it's always changing, and it's even hard for me to sort, like, okay, what's the BS and what's the actual evidence-based information we have here. I don't think there's any definition of ultra processed that says like this number of ingredients or this number of steps that it goes through or whatever. What I like to think about with processing is how many steps did it take to get from its original form to this form? And yes, there are a lot of vegan options that are ultra processed. That doesn't necessarily mean they're unhealthy or bad or should not be eaten. It simply means like scientists are taking food and they are using it to build something that replaces foods that have been eliminated because of the vegan diet. Vegan diets don't have to have those ultra processed meat replacers, but they can. So it depends, again, on what you can afford, what tastes good to you, what makes it accessible. I know a lot of people that have adopted a vegan or vegetarian diet, and then they're missing out on a lot of nutrients because they don't know how, or they don't like beans, or they don't know how to cook certain things. They don't like tofu. So then I'm like, well, maybe we should try some of these meat replacers, because that obviously is missing from your diet, and you need the protein, you need the iron, you need, some of these other nutrients. So I'm not worried about people including ultra processed foods in their diets, so long as they're getting a variety of all the other foods. So it's not so much the inclusion of ultra processed food, it's the reliance on ultra processed food that gets us into trouble from a health standpoint.
That's great. Good. I like that. Well, I think too that with you're right. It's like if again, to me, it's kind of like that concept of I want to try to get my good food, my health. I used to tell this to my daughter. It's like you got to eat your growing food first. Eat your growing food,
Yeah.
and then you can have whatever other kind of food you want. But you got to get the growing food in.
Yeah. We can't just ignore nutrition, like what we know about nutrition. And I know like the message is really strong, like, oh, ultra processed foods, we're eating too much of it. Well, that doesn't mean you have to completely eliminate it, and it doesn't mean some of those foods don't have a very valuable place in your diet. But when people start getting super scared about processing, and ground beef is processed, like dry beans are processed, an apple picked from the tree is technically processed. So we have to start just like thinking a little more rationally about this, and understanding that like there's no single food that has the power to completely derail your health.
Good.
Okay. Let's see. Assuming one has a reasonably solid diet, high quality protein, carbs, fat, lots of veggies, what supplements do I recommend? Okay, for longevity, well, I'm just gonna say I don't typically recommend supplements in general. It really depends on the individual and what they might be missing. Longevity and better aging.
That's mine, Erin. You don't have to go through each one.
Yeah,
out there for interest.
So there's some really interesting research on creatine. And I was super resistant to it, fully admit. I was super resistant to it for a while because I was like, oh my God, everybody thinks creatine is like the magic, thing, whatever. But it honestly is like one of the most researched supplements that we have, creatine monohydrate. There's some really cool research coming out on cognition and creatine supplementation. So that's why, and just like those repeatable bouts of exercise. So shortened time to recovery, that kind of stuff that, could play a role when we look at that aging process. So I think that could be something to think about. Omega-3s have been shown to have some really positive brain effects. There's probably some others in there on like memory and, eyesight and some of those other things, but nothing that I've seen that we can't get from a good balanced diet as well. Better overall health. I really think just taking, better care of your eating in general and not stressing about the eating so much. I mean, this is the thing. I tell people that your stress around whether or not you should have that cookie is far worse for you than eating the cookie. So enjoy enjoy the food, enjoy the people around you, enjoy your life, and let some of that pressure and stress go, because that, my friends, is way worse for overall health. And I'm convinced of this, and I'm a dietitian. Like, I've studied food my whole career, and I'm still sitting here saying, like, gosh, take care of your heart and soul and your mental health, because that's a huge part of overall health. Menopause. There's some interesting adaptogens available. So there's a number of different adaptogens. I can't list them all, but ashwagandha is one. Shishandra is another one that can mitigate some of the different symptoms that we have through menopause. Of course, we hear protein, and that's, just generally speaking, we don't see that women necessarily need more protein than the average adult, but we see that women in menopause are both not exercising as much because of various reasons. Some of it is you're just really tired. You have all these symptoms and they suck, and you feel like crap all the time. So you don't want to exercise. And maybe you don't want to put as much attention toward nutrition because of that as well. But paying better attention to nutrition, making sure you're getting adequate protein, and making sure that you're getting movement and really stimulating those muscles are important. Older athlete needs, I mean, we kind of already talked about the protein. I can't really think of other things. Vitamin D is one that I will hit on a lot because several people I would recommend getting tested if you're concerned about vitamin D level, but a simple daily supplement is recommended for a lot of people that live at our latitude, because we're just not making enough from the sun. And improve performance. So back to the creatine, strategic protein, if you choose that. Other supplements, I mean, there's some others, like we hear beetroot juice, and we hear, I mean, even caffeine and some of these other supplements. I mean, my rationale is first, do no harm. So we need to just look at, like, what's the purpose of these supplements, and what are they designed to do? And then you start kind of looking at, well, are they safe? And what are you hoping to gain out of it? Because truth be told, many times people are looking to get something out of a supplement that they actually could be getting from nailing the fundamentals, the sleep, the nutrition, executing the training plan, whatever. And they expect the supplement to fill the gap. And that's just not the way it works. So, most recommended pre and post workout food recommendations. Well, the pre-workout kind of depends on the length of time you have before the workout. So longer than, say, 2 hours, you can basically eat a full meal and probably be okay. Everybody's a little different in this regard, so it's important for you to know how your digestive system tolerates that amount of food. But a sandwich, or, a bowl of cereal, or one of my personal favorites is peanut butter toast with banana on it. There's a lot of ways you can do it. Yogurt with granola and fruit. But basically, like, carbohydrate based, get a mix of nutrients, and take into account how you've eaten the day going up to that workout too, because if you're coming in short, like maybe you had a work meeting that took you away from lunch, or, you weren't able to nourish your body the way you'd expect, and then you have this evening workout, you might need to plan to have a larger pre-workout snack or meal and really load up more on those carbohydrates. So then we might be looking at like a couple toaster waffles with some maple syrup and peanut butter, or, something like that. When you're getting really close to a workout, like maybe 30, 45 minutes, you want to stick with even simpler, smaller portion carbohydrates. So that's the pretzels and applesauce and maybe sports food, if that's all you have available, a ripe banana, things like that. And then post-workout, full disclosure, I have been a partner with Dairy West for a number of years. And so I have been seen in chocolate milk commercials, and I promoted chocolate milk before I was a partner with Dairy West. So chocolate milk is one of my favorite post-workout food recommendations. Yes, it could be chocolate soy milk. Yes, it could be, a chocolate pea protein milk. Totally fine. It could be regular milk. It could be an unflavored milk. But the thing with milk with adequate protein, that means that 8 grams per 8 ounces, that's the standard amount of protein in the milk, usually will have twice that amount of carbohydrate, sometimes 3 times as much if you're getting like a chocolate milk or flavored milk. That ratio of carbs to protein is really favorable to help your body recover. You're also getting fluid and electrolytes with that beverage. So that's one of my number one choices. Could you get that from food? Absolutely. You can totally get it from food. You could just go home and make yourself a sandwich, or make yourself a bowl of leftovers, or a bowl of soup, or eat some pizza out of the fridge, with some, drink a beverage with it. That's totally fine too. There's no exact right way to do post-workout nutrition, but getting a combination of carbohydrate and protein is really what you want to aim for, and then get some fluid too. Particularly if it was like a really hot and sweaty workout, you're going to want to aim for about 16 ounces in that first hour post-workout. So make sure that you're getting that alongside those foods that you choose to eat. You could make a commercial like recovery shake that, from some supplement or, recovery shake mixture that you like to use. Totally fine. Knock yourself out. I will offer one of my favorite pieces of research was done by Dr. Brent Ruby. He's a researcher over at University of Montana, and he did a study back, gosh, I think it was 2015 or something, where he looked at post-exercise glycogen restoration in athletes after having like a designed shake for recovery, or after having a McDonald's cheeseburger. And he found out that it was equivalent. So I like to, and I still will like message him on Facebook and be like, I talked about your research again today, because I think that just drives home the point of this whole talk that, sometimes we get too caught up in like the details and how perfectly to do this. And I think it's really important that you all are asking these questions, because it shows me that you're interested, and it shows me that you want to get it right, and that you want to make these changes. At the same time, there's a lot of like low-hanging fruit that can be improved just through eating like a varied diet and being pretty relaxed about it and enjoying the food you eat, versus getting too into the weeds on it. So
Oh, that's good. That's really good. Important stuff to remember. Just keep it all in perspective, guys. Yeah. So we have so Erin needs to go at 5:50. So we have about 3 minutes left. Laura, I know you had a question. Do you want to ask that question directly?
Sure, I can. I've just started taking a calcium supplement because people say you're getting older, you should take calcium, right? But then I was looking at my numbers. I've just started really tracking my proteins and stuff, and my calcium's like way overblown. And so I wasn't sure if that really made sense. And then I also was reading, I forget, one of the many books on my shelf that was saying that we should not necessarily take calcium as we age.
yeah, I don't just blanket recommend calcium. I mean, calcium is not a completely benign supplement to be taking, it's a large mineral. It can, have other effects and settle in your body in places that you don't want it if you have too much of it. And so I would question wherever that recommendation came from. If you're getting calcium from other foods, and this could be like, we hear kind of simple recommendations like 3 to 4 servings of dairy foods or dairy replacement that has calcium in it would be adequate calcium intake. But if you don't get that much dairy, then I would probably do like a simple kind of, food tracking, and you can use online, there's apps and different things that you could get a reasonable idea of how much calcium you're getting in your diet. Beans, cooked greens, veggies, different things will add to it, nuts, things like that. Um, I would really hesitate to put I don't think, and I've worked with people with stress fractures and stuff, and they're already on a calcium supplement from their provider, but I haven't recommended a calcium supplement to somebody unless they, are really inadequate in a lot of other areas. So,
Okay, thank you.
yeah. And then it looks like we had a question, a banana before 5:30 swim? Absolutely. Yeah. Get those carbohydrates in there, wake up the brain. It really could be a lot of different foods. I've seen a lot of different ways people put this together, but banana, that was one of my pre-swim go-tos for years and years. Still is. So
Very nice. All right. Good. Wow. That's like right at 5:50.
I know we did it.
Do you mind if I send out your contact information to everybody afterwards?
I don't.
Okay, all right. Yeah. So if anybody wants to ask Erin additional questions, I will send her contact information, or if you want to work with her directly, that would be great too. So,
Okay.
all right, Miss Erin.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Yeah. All right, you guys. I'm going to stop the recording.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.